You are the sunshine of my life. Oh ho, that's why I'll always be around. Oh yeah.
You've got talent, Brian.
You are the apple of my eye. Oh yeah. That's why I'll always be around.
So, thanks for that, Brian. So, okay, yeah, we're rolling here.
We're rolling.
Got
Are singing there?
Cool. You think you've definitely passed.
Yes.
So you're through to the next round. Congratulations.
Thank you. Lovely.
So we come to talk about your...
Do you think I'm speaking loud enough?
I'm sure the camera said it was okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I was singing loud.
Yeah,
now I'm
that's
talking.
a very good point.
Yeah, I'm just talking now, you see. I want to be comfortable. I don't want to be having to yell like that in order to be heard.
We could just go down. Okay. Talk again, Brian.
Yes, it's nice to be comfortable. Talk comfortably rather than have to feel like I have to. I will project, but
would you?
Yeah, but I don't want to. I don't want to be forced. No. Yeah, I might. Yeah, right, okay. If I get passionate.
Okay. And what about your normal speaking voice?
My normal speaking voice. I think right now this is what it is.
Okay. But do you ever talk really quite quiet?
Do I ever? Well, I can do. I can get very, very, very passionate.
Would you please remain seated whilst you're passionate?
All right. Yeah.
Let's camera control with that. So we were talking earlier about this idea you've got for a bomb.
A bomb, a peace bomb.
Please. A peace bomb. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
And we talked about the idea of you creating this in response to the current global situation, which is obviously, here we are, 10th of October 2008, and there's a global financial meltdown, as we're told of it. And so you've been thinking about this, and you've got an idea what you think could be quite interesting to try out.
This reminds me of a Monty Python sketch. This is my idea, it is. And this is my idea, and this is what it is. Are you ready? That it is.
And it's yours.
And it's mine.
I understand.
You've seen it, yeah? And it's mine, yes. But it's not mine, really. Speak to you. It's not mine, really, because no ideas. I mean, there's a lot of bullshit in our times, and one of those bullshits is one of those things that I would say is highly dysfunctional in the way we are operating as a culture, is this whole idea of intellectual property, that we actually own ideas and that we actually are the creators of our ideas. When in fact, what I believe is the ideas are kind of like in the ethers. They're in the oxygen and the nitrogen and the carbon dioxide, and we breathe them in and we breathe them out, and sometimes we actually notice them as they come in and out, and we start to develop them, but they're there for everybody. So where did all that come from?
Same as us all.
Yes. So yes, it's not my idea. It is a solution. Or I could even say the solution, or the possible solution to what is occurring here right now with the global economy in this tailspin, where we are actually going through some kind of global cultural psychosis, where we're actually creating something that doesn't really exist, but we're creating our own nightmares and then getting frightened by them and creating them even further out of our fear. We're spiraling into this pit, this fear breeding fear spiral into hell, into chaos, into we are very much faced with a choice right now as to which way we want to go. We can let it fall, and let the chips fall where they may, as they say, and deal with it. But that has the potential to be extremely chaotic and traumatic and painful for a lot of people. Or we can actually harness what's going on and use the momentum of it to create a new a way forward.
Now you're saying it's the it could be the solution, or you're proposing that it could be the solution. Could you maybe explain a bit about what the solution is, or your proposal for it?
Yeah, well, what we have to do? The first thing we have to do, the biggest part of this fire, is the fear breeding fear delusion that's being created, and but at the same time becoming real. We have the ability to dance our dreams awake, and we have the ability to dance our nightmares awake. And there's a choice there, and whichever one we are actually focusing on is the one that will manifest. And if we're manifesting on the nightmares, then we want to certainly three-dimensionalize the nightmare. Yeah. So.
And do you think this is happening now in the current?
Yeah, we're all, everyone's afraid, and behaving out of fear, sugary morphine, like you do with a dog. If you some people, are scared of dogs, and the dogs smell the fear, and they growl a little bit, in response to just say, "Hey, I'm tough too," right? And then we go, "Oh my God, it's a fierce dog." So our level of fear increases, and the dog goes, "What's he afraid of?" And then we go, "Oh my God, he's going to bite me!" "You stupid!" And they go, "He's shouting at me. What's he shouting at me for? I'll show him." Sooner or later someone jumps for the gun, man. It's this fucking dog bites you, or you hit the dog with a stick, and whatever, and it only has one possible outcome, which is complete and total chaos.
Mm.
And in complete and total chaos, as much as we might think, "Oh great, it's all falling down, now something good's going to happen." Yeah, but also in that moment, in that period of time, which could be the rest of our lives, because we only have very short lives. Sometimes these things go on for hundreds of years. They have been known to go on for hundreds of years. And for our children, when we pass. So that's one possible outcome, if we dance our nightmares awake. And then the other possible outcome is that we actually find a path through this, where we use the momentum of what is occurring to energize where we're going, where we want to be. We can deal with the issues of rights and wrongs and da-da-da, but if we've got to put the fire out, that's the first thing. We've got to put the fire out, and the fire is this psychosis.
Absolutely. So, what you're suggesting then, is a stop plan, which I believe is stop, think, organise, and proceed.
Yeah.
So, could you maybe talk a bit about that?
Stop is spelled S.T.O.P. Yeah. Stop, think, organise, proceed. So it's a word that says what it is. There's a word for that. I don't know what it is. As there isn't, there should be.
Absolutely. No kidding.
So anyway, and it's hang on. So I would kind of headline different headlines that kind of sum this up. Is stop, think, organise, proceed. There is when we, the people, lead, our leaders follow. Because they have to. Because really, the change comes up from the root, and so it's really up to us. And we all have a little bit of the jigsaw puzzle, and this is my little bit. So I'm putting it on the table here, and maybe it'll kind of fit somewhere else for somebody else's, and the picture will become more complete. for all of us. And I kind of think that's why we're here. We all have this little piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and it's our life's work to identify it, number one, to put it on the table, number two, and number three, to see how it fits in context. And then we can die happy. Yeah, so this is a bit of my jigsaw puzzle, my jigsaw bit. So, and I believe that we are the powers that be. As well, we are the powers that be. We live under this kind of like shroud of the powers that be. The powers that be won't let us, and the lizards are ruling the world. Well, lizards, even if they are ruling the world, are just creatures, and they're subject to spiritual law, the laws of the fundamental laws of the universe and cause and effect and all that stuff, as you and I are. So it doesn't matter, because it's a Jedi thing. When we are in spiritual connection, or whatever you want to call it, the spark beating the heart kind of thing, then it's Aikido. The Aikido master is always in the right place at the right time at any given moment, with full energy.
Cool, Brian. Thanks a lot for sharing that.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I think it's a kind of a belief in the fact that we can actually make a difference if we can only recognise that and see that for what it is. Yeah.
To know our power, and that there is no power above us.
Absolutely.
The power's within us.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
You also talked about the fact that this is just a space waiting to be filled. This problem.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
We see it as a problem,
mm-hmm.
but really it's an opportunity. It's like it's been said. The problem is just a space waiting for a solution to occur or to happen or to fill it.
That's great. Thanks for that. So just to summarise the S.T.O.P again, Brian, just take us through that.
Yeah, okay. Well, the thing is, it's like when an oil well is burning. It's a good metaphor. The way they don't pump water into it. Because they pump water, it just evaporates, right? They have to just pour water into this fire, and this fire just goes, and that's exactly what's going on with pouring billions and billions and billions of dollars, which don't really exist anyway, into a hole in the ground. This vortex that the fear breeding fear vortex is just sucking all the energy and re-energizing itself through it. So it's like the way to stop an oil well fire is not to pour water in because it won't make any difference. You just waste your time and water. Is you have to explode. You actually detonate. It's a bomb or an explosive at the mouth of the well, and in that moment when it explodes, it burns all the oxygen up in the area, and so the oil well, for just momentarily, has no oxygen to maintain the fire. This is my understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's right.
I think
And then the people who put the fire out have this little opportunity to cap the well.
Mm.
In that moment, it's very kind of like it displaces everything just long enough for the well to be capped, and then the oxygen comes back in again. So, using that metaphor, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to stop the spiral, the fear-breeding-fear spiral, and it's the engine of that spiral, the tornado, if you want, where the turbulence is focused and is actually taking place, is the stock market. You don't have to say, oh, it's wrong, or it's right for that matter. It's just that's just where it's happening. So, it's like put out the fire, close the stock market for a month. People are going to be upset about it, but they're going to be a lot more upset when the whole of civilization disintegrates and there's complete barbaric behaviour in the streets and survival of the fittest and all of that, and society ceasing to exist, And from that, obviously, you know, from that kind of a situation comes, you know, something that, like what happened in Germany, this kind of military, I'll take care of business kind of, you know, take care of the chaos, you know, I can save you, and all that kind of stuff. You know, someone comes into that vacuum, sometimes it's a good person, and sometimes it's a person not so good, you know. And you don't know where all that's going to go, and I don't see like we have to go through that. So stop the fire, close the markets down for a month, you know. Government can pay people to just have a vacation. You know, they don't have to be there all going, oh my God this, and oh my God that, right? You know, every day, you know, we're doing them a favour, right? We'll save them from all of that for a month. They can have a holiday. Government can pay them to shut the fuck up, you know. So that's the first step. Second step, you know, stop. Stop. What was it?
Stop. Think.
Think. That's right. Think. Yeah. Okay. Well, it doesn't quite work that like that, but the flow of things. But the next step is to.
You were saying about give everybody a fair.
No, not yet. No. It's dealing in the order of priorities. Important things. The important thing is stop the fire. Second thing is to stop the debt.
Yeah.
That was that the second thing. I think it was. Yeah. Stop the debt.
You're saying about cut the feedback loop because it's currently.
Yeah, cut the feedback loop by
close the
stopping.
markets for 1 month.
Yeah.
And then yes, I believe you did say cancel the debt.
Yeah, we're going to edit this, right?
Yeah. I think from memory, I don't have it written down here, but I believe that's what.
Cancel the debt.
Yeah, cancel the debt.
Cancel the debt. All debt. Cancel it.
Everybody's debt wiped out.
Done.
Nobody owes a penny to.
It's like a fresh start, you know.
Yeah.
And no, it doesn't make any sense, and this will not make any economic sense. You know, it's that kind of kapow energy, okay, that can just starve the fire of oxygen just long enough to cap it. You know, so. You know, when you've got nothing left to lose, right? There's no, you know, when you've got nothing left to lose, you just got to kind of take a leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the way it's going, what I'm seeing is that really, you know, governments want to do something about it, but no one knows how to stop it because we're dealing with a human condition, and people are afraid, and there's a lot for people to be afraid of. You know, so it is the survival instincts acting out, right? So the governments don't know what to do, you know. But who are the governments anyway? They're just made up of people like you and me who have elected them to do that work, which I'm too much of a lazy bum and coward to do, right? So, you know, as much as I disagree with politicians a lot of the time, or I'm disappointed by them because they are human and I expect them to be perfect, I know that they're doing a job that I'm not willing to do.
Absolutely.
So I respect them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, you know, human beings left to their own devices behave quite badly.
Indeed.
Because we're quite primitive still.
Absolutely.
And maybe it doesn't matter, because every other creature has to deal with being eaten in the middle of the night unexpectedly. But we human beings have got used to the luxury of being able to relax a little bit from those immediate dangers. And when those individuals do kind of rear their heads, they usually end up getting caught and locked up, so they don't do it to anybody else. And we've kind of got used to that, and I quite like it personally. I quite like civilization. I think, you know, civilization's a good thing. And yes, you know, there are many areas in which you could be better, but you know, it's nice to be able to sleep at night.
It's civil.
It's civil most of the time. It's nice to be able to sleep at night and not worry about someone coming smashing, you up in their jaws, you know, and then eating all your kids. It doesn't happen very often. So, and I like that, and I mean that's why we've evolved government, because of where we collectively human beings fall short of correct behaviour with each other. So we've had to kind of create these structures in order to, but it gets out of hand sometimes. Sometimes it gets unbalanced in one direction or another. You know? And right now, it's out of balance, obviously.
It's only a system after all, and that does change with flux of everything going into it, the system coming out of it. By definition, it changes.
Yeah, it evolves.
Yeah.
It's an incrustation, really, like an anthill. Yeah.
So, getting back to the stop idea then, you're saying cancel all of the
Cancel all
debts.
debt.
Okay.
Okay. And then simultaneously give everybody an awful lot of money.
When you say
I don't have a
awful lot,
specific.
Brian, what-
I don't have a specific figure, but if we look about how much we've spent up to now, or maybe it's not all spent yet, but promise, but that can always be redirected. If we think we spent like £700 billion in this country, more really, because there's other things going on too. So, I mean, a trillion, say 1 trillion, you just, what's a trillion between friends, right? You've got a spare trillion or two. It seems like there's plenty around because, where's it coming from anyway? It's like a vapour. It's not attached to anything that you can actually touch. The money is like a vapour. And it's all right, as long as we manage it with consciousness. And what's happened here is that the consciousness has got out of balance. It's not being holistic. It's not taking the whole interest on every level of humanity and the world and our environment. The environment we live in. I'm not talking about trees and rivers necessarily. I'm talking about the environment that we are surrounded by, wherever we are. Not being holistic in our approach to that. And the result is this imbalance. It comes up in many ways. It comes up in disease. It comes up in pollution. It comes up in climate change, and it's just showing up everywhere, really. Yeah. So we create these systems to take care where we fall short, and I can't remember what I'm talking about.
We were talking about the idea of cancelling debt as well.
Yeah, so it's just a system. We've decided that, I give you this, you give me 6 of those.
Yeah.
And you put 6 of those over there along with 6 of those over there, and you'll have 150 of them next week. We've got used to this kind of, this game. It is just a game.
Absolutely.
And money, the actual concept of money is not a bad thing, because money is a way of us focusing energy to get jobs done. Hey, how much will it cost to fix that ozone layer over there? To build a machine to zap it and sort it will all be all right. Oh, well, that'll cost probably about $4 trillion or pounds or toenails or whatever, which will represent so many hours of energy, people's life energy they're spending to achieve a task. So, it's like a way of taking, say, 1 trillion people or 1 billion individuals who are willing to spend 1 unit of their life's energy, in exchange for having somewhere to live and something to eat and to be all right for 6 months and not have to worry, There's another 6 months of life in the bank, right? And you wonder, how am I going to get through the next 6 months, right? What task do I have to perform in order to get my living unit, to fulfill my cost of living? Yeah. It's a game. It's just a game. And it's not like it's a bad game, or a good game. It's a game.
So are you suggesting here press the reset button of the game?
Yeah, reboot it. Reboot it, because because we've been doing this for how many thousands of years doesn't mean to say we have to
reboot.
Yeah, totally. It needs a reinstall, an upgrade, more RAM, defrag. Definitely needs a defrag, if nothing else. Yes. Anyway, so it's like. Take a breath, draw a breath. Phew, yeah. Okay, that was an interesting one. Now, what are we going to do? And the point is that when something gets so, it's like any kind of relationship or any situation in life, when it starts to really stink and it starts to fall apart, you can't let it go. and say, okay, it was great for a while. I had housemates one time. We had 1 year of bliss in the house together, and then we had a year of diminishing bliss, and where it spiraled into a real nightmare, right? And it's like, but I have tremendous fondness for the good times, and then when it's time to move on, it's time to move on.
Absolutely.
You know, so we've played this game for a while, and you know, it's been part of us learning so many things about ourselves and how and developing these amazing technologies, and you know, getting us from the trees to here. You know, we needed all of that. It was important. It was part of our climbing frame, you know, to get us from the trees to here. Great. So you know, we've managed that bit, and we've got a lot of toys, a lot of knowledge, you know, a lot of tools.
So you're sort of saying as well about the idea of organising. So you know, stop, think, and organise. Talking about the idea of organising things that we have at the moment, not fundamentally breaking them or damaging them in any way, but just trying to reorganise them in a better way that probably works a bit fairer or a bit more sustainable. Yeah,
sustainable is the word. You know, I mean, sustainable is the key really to us getting back on track on every level of life. You know, sustainability is the challenge, and sustainability is not just about balancing the books financially. Sustainability is about people actually having fulfilled, comfortable, optimum lives. You know, because that seems to be, you know, what makes a human being most happy. You know, and it doesn't have to be, you know. My sister has this pepper shaker, right? And you press a button and it grinds the pepper for you while you hold it over the plate, right? And not only that, it's got a light in it so you can see where the pepper's landing.
That's a good
It's cool as hell. It's like a little spaceship, right? You know, and carving knives, you don't actually have to move your hand.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Everything, you know, we can actually do some things for ourselves. You know, we don't have to have electric toilet paper feeders. Right, we can actually pull the toilet paper. Yeah, so we can actually, you know, there's a lot we could do without on the level of consumerism. You know, we could live very satisfied lives without. We actually are very distracted from our satisfaction by all the stuff that we think we need in order to be satisfied. You know, that is, you know, a completely upside down way that we're approaching life. You know. And that's a destiny people can find for themselves. It's not something that comes with awakening and with, you know, with that taking that journey from the trees. You know.
I mean, I think it's quite interesting just to even do things like not watch TV. As you know, Brian, I don't particularly watch a lot of TV, and you know, the less of TV I watch, the more I tend to enjoy life and going out and interacting with it than sitting in front of a TV. You know,
yeah.
I can't cope with that. Anyway, we were talking about that, and then so you know, maybe sort of think about things a little bit, and then in a more sustainable way, and think about how that could work, and proceed into hopefully that we also talked about the fact that things take 1 month of behaviour change in order to become normal. I think it's agreed in kind of sociological terms, and that if you do something for 28 days, that kind of breaks the cycle, and you can be into something new. So if there's
the whole moon cycle, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So if you stop the money markets for a month and you went with this new suggested paradigm shift, then hopefully, you know, once that's kick-started, then it will hopefully proceed in possibly a more sustainable, more grounded, certainly in real value terms anyway, hopefully fairer society.
Well, that we have to trust that you know, that we are on the path of enlightenment of consciousness, and from that, as we awaken to our, you know, our potential for consciousness as human beings, the society we create will automatically reflect that. So I'm not too concerned about that. What I'm most concerned about is connecting with that primal force and being guided by it. You know. So, anyway, the gut guidance has stimulated this. The plan,
The
plan. The plan, the mother of all plans, right? This is the mother of all plans, right? Because on one level, you think this is just crazy, Brian, you need locking up. But if you can kind of suspend judgment, you just suspend judgment and just breathe in the possibility that maybe this could work. Just breathe in the possibility that maybe this could work.
Because it's probably be pointed out, if people don't know Brian does Infinite Possibility, .org.uk, I believe.
Nope, just infinitepossibility.org.
.org, it's gone global.
Infinite possibility singular, because all there is possibility. Yeah. So there are an infinite number of possibilities, and this is one of them.
Well done, Brian. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Nice one.
I haven't actually finished. Let me think.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, because we haven't talked about giving the money away, right? This is the big one, right? This is where people win. Who wants to be a millionaire, right? Everybody wants to be a millionaire. We all watch that program and wish I could be a millionaire, right? If I had £1 million, what I wouldn't do, right? But first, I have to pay off my debts. Okay, so that's why it's very important to cancel all debt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because people get thrown out of their houses. People are getting bailiffs are knocking on the doors and all this kind of stuff. And so the first thing that people are going to do if you give them a lot of money is pay off their debt. And what does that do? It just throws more water down the well, right? Which the fire's just going to go like that, and it's going to be gone. So it's very important to cancel debt, give people a whole lot of money, a ridiculous amount of money. I don't know how much, you'd have to work it out. But it's got to be enough that they will feel absolutely comfortable and compelled to go out and spend it. And to really enjoy spending it, buying the things they want. And the shops will have to then order staff to give these people the things they want, right? And then the factories will have to produce them. Or someone will have to go out on a little boat and sail over to China and get a whole load and bring them back. But the economy will start moving again, right? It'll start moving forward. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, the thing is, the way everything is structured now, money is a vapour. It doesn't really have any substance to it. What is £1 trillion? What does it look like? It's only worth what you can do with it. It's worth what you can do with it, right? And by pouring £1 trillion into a trillion gallons of water into an oil well fire to put it out is absolutely a complete waste of time. And sooner or later you're going to run out of water or energy to do it.
So you're suggesting rather than take this $4 trillion or pounds or whatever it is,
and who knows how much more is going to come,
and to evenly distribute it between everybody in each country. So each government, the UK government, would take that money and distribute between its citizens, the US, all countries around the world, Australia, Japan.
Yeah.
Everybody would just take the money, and each government would divide it out by the number of their population. So each person could have £1 million each.
Yeah, if that's, whatever have to do the figures, what that would actually look like. But to have an awful lot of money.
Awful lot of money.
Yeah, that they could go
out.
a
millionaire.
And they could just go out and have lots of fun. And forget about the morals of consumerism.
We're talking millionaires here.
If possible, why not? Yeah.
Everybody wants to be a millionaire.
Because it's just a number, right?
Indeed.
It's just a number. It doesn't matter. If people have it, they'll go out and spend it. Then they'll have to produce it. And to produce it, they'll have to be employed. Because they'll need employees to produce it. So that people go, and the whole thing will start spinning again. And then open up the markets again, and those companies that are meeting the needs of the people will be supported and be successful, and those that are not meeting the needs of the people will fall away, and that's fine. But it'll take that panic out of it, because the economy will actually be moving
Because
again.
people will be spending absolutely loads of money buying different
Totally.
things.
And yes, it'll be mad consumerism.
And
yeah.
how long will this last for?
As long as it has to.
Will we spend all of the money so actually there is no more money left? Basically, you talk about spending all the money rather than having any.
Well, because...
banks just spend it all. Spend it all.
Yeah, why not? Have a good time. Set up a business. You know what I mean? This is your opportunity, right? What are you going to do with £1 million?
Well, you have to go and get a great camera, wouldn't you? Go on a great holiday. And,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think I'd have a helicopter. Definitely have a helicopter.
Yeah, I've always wanted a helicopter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be
With
nice.
a studio in it. I'm not sure so much now. I mean, there was a day when I wanted a helicopter. Now I see that going. I watched my cousin, not my cousin, my brother-in-law, who I've had quite a poor opinion of. It's going to be edited, all right? Not live, all right? It's not live.
You say you are. This is grand up, actually.
Well, no, okay, he knows anyway. You know, we never, anyway, this morning I was sleeping on my sister's sofa, and I heard his voice, and I had my immediate kind of reaction that I get with him, because he's been quite difficult person to get along with. And you're looking at the time.
No, I was just thinking I should wonder where Trixie is, or I should just go and check on the kids. But,
Do you want to?
yeah, just
Yeah.
Trix isn't here, the kids are all right.
Cool.
That's all good.
Anyway, I heard, and then I listened to his voice, and it was kind of like I reacted to it in the kind of way of, oh God, told you, and then I heard him again express something in a way that I suddenly felt his heart. I felt the innocence in him, and the earnestness in him, and realised that he's just like me. He's just trying to make it through. He's like, the only way he knows how. He's not a bad person. He's not even a difficult person. He's just a survivor.
Indeed.
You know. So with that, I peeked through the curtains when he left. He rides a Harley, right? And I watched him getting on this Harley and manoeuvring it around and down the road. And I thought, bloody hell, man, I couldn't do that. You know. And I felt this enormous respect grew from me for him, that he actually went out every morning, no matter what the weather's like, and rides down to the West End of London on that fucking bike. I wouldn't do it.
Everybody's different.
And he loves it.
Yeah.
But the fact that he can actually handle the fucking thing, I wouldn't be able to even handle it, you know. So I don't know why I was saying all of that.
What's the reason?
No other reason.
Proceed, organise.
Yeah. So that's it really. Proceed is to give the money out and get spending. And then Bob's your uncle, you know, and worry about the issues of we can still, I think we're all learning a big lesson out of this global experience, right?
Yes.
And if we actually take this step, that I'm suggesting right now, we'll learn a bigger lesson, because can you imagine the reality of this? The whole mood will just switch like that.
What would you say to the people who would ask that the environment will suffer because people are going on a mad consumerist spend thrift, burning up lots of the environment?
I think it will be, it will be a temporary interlude in the conservation. But if we don't straighten the economy out, we're not going to have the energy to straighten the environment out. It's that simple, really, because it's not like. Imagine if we couldn't take care of the nuclear waste anymore because the systems break down. Or, you know what I mean? There's a lot out there that is not going to go back to nature anytime soon. So we don't know about the ozone layer, if that'll ever repair. Maybe it has to be repaired. It's technology. It's intent that's going to pull this off. It's not. I love that line from that comedy. When God says they're so damn meek, they'll never inherit anything. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know what the true meaning of meek is, but I think we're a bit too meek. You know what I mean? If we want to inherit this earth, then we have to be quite proactive and on it. You know, because you look at the animals who are in the real world of survival. We're the only creature that's not in the real world of survival. Eat or be eaten at any moment. That's it, mate. You know, you thought you were going to live to be 15. You know, you thought you might actually learn how to get out of that pram. You know what I mean? Yeah. You thought you were going to be able to draw a pension and relax, and hang out by a swimming pool. You know, death is never convenient, I'm sure. Not today, please. I'm not ready.
Stop on my 5-year plan.
You said that last time. When are you going to be ready? Soon, I promise. Yeah.
Where do you get it from?
So yeah, you know, I can't remember what I was saying.
Well, I think, you know, just that everybody has a part to play in this piece, really, isn't it? It's a matter of if there's a common language. The first thing to any intention is an agreement between everybody. Otherwise, any system doesn't work. The only reason money is valuable is because everybody agrees that's how we're going to.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you walk down the high street, right, and the shop windows are all the things that people desire. There's a lot of people. You know, jewellery and fur hats and colour TVs, flat screen TVs.
All hail to the flat screen.
You know, or the super duper video camera, right, or the DJ thing. Everything that, you know, behind those windows are lots of things that people actually really want, and they actually sacrifice a great deal of their lives in order to get them, right? They walk down the street and that stuff's there, and the glass is only that thin between the people who want the stuff and the people who got it, right? And yet people are totally fine with that, you know, because that's civilization.
Yes.
You know, that's civilization. But also, you know, civilization is extremely thin. You know, because, you know, first of all, there are people that won't acknowledge that piece of glass, and the more desperate people get, the more frightened people get, the more hungry people get, then the less likely they are to respect that piece of glass on any level in society. You know, that's why it's really important that we come up with a civilized outcome. You know, yes, it will increase the drain on the environment somewhat, not hugely. You know, we've been here a long time. We'll be here for millions of years. You know, it will, but then I think our consciousness will straighten that bit out quite soon. We've got two choices, really. You know, we either, this thing either kind of goes into complete meltdown. You know, train wreck. You know, the train wreck is not a pretty sight. You know, a lot of people get hurt. It's a lot of energy wasted cleaning it up. Or we can kind of put a big piece of elastic across the railroad tracks, you know, that's not too tight, and the train can just kind of go into it and just stretch the elastic right out to its complete, whatever, optimum elasticity point is concerned, and the train will just come to a nice, gentle resting point, you know. And that's the one I opt for, you know. And so I think, you know, the most important thing is that we get the economy rolling again, not who owes who what. Because, you know, these days doesn't really make a whole lot of sense anyway, you know, even without measuring it, the morality of it, just the whole illogic of it. You know. So, it doesn't matter who owes how many dead chickens I owe you, or how many...
dead chicken I owe you, on a wing or something.
You know, whatever, toenails. You know,
he's got so many clips out of his
4,000.
wing, it's worth more.
Yeah. So, you know, forget about, you know, I'll give you 6 feathers for that acorn. Yeah. And we can continue to play the game, but let's forget, it doesn't matter. I heard my friend, John Levinson, who now is dead, I'm afraid he died in a car crash a few years ago. But when we were young, John was 6'3", right? And I was 5'3". We were great friends, and I'd always be looking up at him, and he'd always be looking down at me like that. And John always won everything. Everything we ever did, John won, because he was big, and because I was little. And so he was confident and I wasn't, right? He'd always get the girls. He'd always hold their hands and get the cuddles. And he'd always, whatever game we played, he'd always win. Whenever we gambled, I ended up owing this guy £1 million, right? And I really thought I owed him £1 million. Never paid him, though.
How much did you think about this?
Well, this was way back when I was about 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So what does it mean?
Yeah.
This kid, right, in America, him and his sister used to come and visit us and play with my kids. And this kid gambled with his sister, and he won his sister's bed, right? And then he rented it back to her, and she paid it.
That's great.
I was like, bloody hell. That's, what the fuck does it mean?
My brother used to do that to me.
I'll give you a string of beads for that hill over there. All right. I like those. You know what I mean? It's not right.
Yeah.
It's not only not right. It's it's just not. It's bound to cause bad feeling. Yeah. So anyway.
So when do you think we should do this then, Brian?
Immediately.
And how do you think it should be done?
Well, I think it's virally.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a viral message, and it's like if it has wings, it'll fly. Maybe it will interface with someone else who's got something going on virally also, and the two will synergize into something even more refined, and maybe is expressed in a way that more people can hear it.
Mm.
Who knows? So
what would your message be to your fellow human beings, and what would you say to them about this plan?
About this? Well, read it.
Mm-hmm.
Consider the possibility. Suspend all logic for a little while, just long enough to breathe it in fully, so nothing's in the way. There's no as you're considering it. Suspend judgment. Just listen to it as you read it, and don't allow yourself to react, to let thoughts react with it. I mean, they will, but you don't build a house on them. Just let them.
It's quite a big jump to make, isn't it? Really?
Well, it's quite the reactions that the mind will have actually will be part of the process of digesting it. But it's not. But the thing is not to fixate on any one of those reactions. Just let the mind react naturally, and just the focus on just considering the possibility of it. And using the metaphors of the oil well and pouring the water down the oil well, and it just evaporating with the heat. Absolutely no impact on the fire, and the only way to stop the oil well fire is to displace the oxygen long enough for it to be capped.
Because I think everybody, certainly a lot of people in the world, I think, feel that there's some kind of change about to happen in the world. It is something that's talked about, and I think people do recognise that we can't go on, society can't go on in the way that it has done. It's just not possible. The population is going to double by 2050. They're going to run out of water. We are going to run out of water and food and so on. It's just not possible. So I think, and coupled with that also, the animals are dying and so on. We're told all of this information. It's global warming and so on. Something clearly has to happen.
Yeah.
And governments and people are talking about these things and plenty of ideas, but I think something does have to happen, and something actually quite substantial has to happen.
I was just thinking actually in response to what you were saying, while you were saying it. It's like even refining, when if you go out and spend your £1 million, right? choose carefully what you spend it on. Spend it on the things that actually will benefit mankind, and I mean, have a good time with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just be aware of what is helping and what isn't. You know, it's a good to go put along with.
What's your carbon footprint?
Yeah.
On it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But have a good time. You know, just go out and have some fun. Spend
Cool.
money. Yes. Anyway, thank you for that.
Brian, is there anything else you can think that that we've missed?
I don't know, because I got a little bit lost in my head.
Yeah, I thought this is going to be a 10-minute interview. But that's completely cool. I just wish I'd known, because I'd have been more up to it.
Okay, we'll start now. You look good, actually. I wish I had a camera on you.